Hello, West Ham Network. It's Holly, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. I'm going to be joined by David from Blowing Bubbles magazine, and we're going to be chatting through a load of topics that are covered in the latest edition. And this means we're going to be taking quite a good look at everything that has happened and what has led us up to the point where we are as a club. As always, we want you to be involved in the conversation, so let us know what you think down below in the comments section. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. David, welcome to West Ham Network. How's it going?
Yeah, good. How are you doing, Holly?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Looking forward to having a good chat with you and just talking about all things West Ham. I feel like whenever we have a chat, it's always a good conversation about a whole range of topics.
Yeah, and I think it definitely makes a difference when you're coming off the back of a win
It does.
rather
It
than
does.
if we'd had this chat before Forest, I think it would have been a very different conversation.
Just crying down the camera lens. So yeah, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be chatting through different topics that are covered in the latest edition, and going off piste a little bit and just having a good old chinwag. So the first question I've got to ask: what were your thoughts on the transfer window as a whole?
I was speaking to George Paris about this in the latest issue, and actually he made really good points when he said when you look back at the year before and how much money we'd spent, everyone was saying this is a fantastic transfer window, it's going to kick us on and all this kind of things. And then as it kind of worked, it didn't quite
True.
do anything for us, did it really?
No, and I was
And
so excited at the time as well, because I remember thinking the same, that this was the step in the right direction that we wanted in terms of investment, but it also probably is why I'm not in charge of transfers, because it turns out I know very little. But it's a really good point, because it's something that, yeah, you never quite know, do you, until you see those players on the pitch.
I think my concern at the beginning was just the volume of players that we were letting go, the experience in Fabianski, Soufal, Cresswell, and later, obviously, Antonio, Ings, just all those kind of more senior players that we're letting go. And I'm thinking, great, we've got money off the wage bill, but where are these players coming in? I don't understand why we're just always leaving things so late. Like Georgie, I'm stealing one of Georgie's points here, but Georgie was saying as well how great it would have been if Fernandez, if all the other signings that we made really close to the window shutting, if we'd
Mm,
had them in for the American tour,
yeah,
then they could have had that time. Like we're in a situation now where we had Aguerd, we had Alvarez. They were playing in that tournament, working this system with Potter, and now they're gone. And these new players are coming in. And that's why I felt so sorry for the new goalkeeper. He's come in and within a couple of days he's at Sunderland playing against Sunderland. I I said during the Chelsea game that I didn't think that this was probably maybe before the first or second goal. I said
mm,
that I wasn't completely convinced by him, and what I meant by that was he just wasn't that kind of confident, dominant figure that perhaps we were used to with a goalkeeper.
true.
And obviously, you saw everything that happened during the Chelsea game, but there's also an element I feel a bit sorry for him because he's kind of just been thrown into it without having any time with his defenders, and he must be thinking, what have I done? Like, I've gone from one relegated team at Leicester to another that's just shipped like 8 goals in these 2 games. And then we
Yeah,
had went to Wolves in the cup and we had Areola in goal. Now it would have been really interesting to see what happened if he'd had an absolute blinder, then
yeah,
would he have played against Forest? But yeah,
true.
it's difficult. But hopefully, oh, I mean, obviously he's gone away with Denmark squad, but hopefully there'll be a bit more time from to fit in because goalkeepers, that classic position, if they make a mistake,
Mm.
99 times out of 100, it's going to be a goal, isn't it?
Yeah, I would not want to be a keeper either, because I think when you ship as many goals as he had, coming back from that, even just mentally standing on your own between the sticks, getting grief from fans, how you could mentally actually switch that off and go and turn that round is like a massive uphill battle. And I think everything you said there, I completely agree with that. Looking at who we've brought in, I don't think that's the biggest problem this window. I think the issue is we left it so late that they didn't get the preseason to work together. They didn't get the preseason, and we were using players, training them up as if we were then going to use them in the league, getting rid of some of them, not playing the likes of Potts. And it didn't really make any sense in terms of almost playing one way in preseason and then just introducing everyone right at the last minute, other than Diouf, obviously, who had a bit of time. But we've seen him be successful. Is that because he's had longer with the club, and maybe we would be able to do better with a little bit more time with these players? So It's interesting. I would say though the strategy does look better in terms of bringing in younger players on the whole. I know we've obviously got Wilson and that, but I suppose in terms of losing experience, bringing in someone else that might be more of a short-term fix there on a free isn't the worst piece of business in the world. But on the whole, we're bringing in some younger players, but it does feel like it's going to take multiple windows to be able to get to where, as fans, we'd like to see our squad. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I think there's now that switch to buying these younger players who
Mm,
we can then sell on for a larger fee further down the line. That seems to be how the other clubs are looking at it in the Premier
yeah.
League. And I think the whole financial side of it now just blows my mind in terms of, you know, the obligation to buy when you're loaning to someone or it has to hit a certain threshold or we'll pay you X amount, but we'll do it over delayed, period. But then you look at it on the flip side, we sold Kudus and we've made a really tiny profit on it. And it still blows my mind that we just didn't hold on just to try and get closer to that release clause, really, because then that would have given us a huge chunk of money. But definitely, seeing these younger players come in, I'm looking at it thinking, okay, we're gonna get definitely more energy now. I mean, we couldn't have had any less energy. I think I saw a stat about like, Wilson and Fulkrug combined. I mean, they'd be their age, they'd be getting close to retirement age, in terms of it. But we do need some leaders in that dressing room. I thought I listened to a chat with Jared Bowen for the BBC, and he was saying that people just assume that he's quiet and stuff in the dressing room, and
Mm,
he was actually saying that actually, he does see himself as being quite a vocal captain. So whilst we might not necessarily see it on the pitch, clearly he believes he's doing enough off the pitch with it. But I think, yeah, when you look at the transfer window as a whole, we've gone from getting rid of a lot of kind of senior, lots of Premier League experience, just experience in general, international as well, now replace them with these younger players who they're going to need time.
yeah.
And unfortunately, you don't get an awful that in the Premier League. I mean, you just got to ask some of the youngsters that are coming through. I really hoped, and seeing some of them in the pre-season games, I
Yeah.
was thinking they've really got a good chance to kick on this season. Like, it's difficult because they don't seem to be doing an awful lot wrong, but there must be stats or levels. It can't just be based on opinions, because if it was based on opinions, you've got to say
Mm,
that these youngsters are doing enough to warrant game time, and
yeah.
yet they're not getting enough. But yeah, we're definitely seeing this Potter squad being molded. The only issue I have at the moment is we spent a lot of money under the previous manager. We've balanced the books a bit more, but got new bodies in that Potter wants now.
Mm.
We've got to stick with him.
Yeah,
But
you've got
it's
to commit at this point, haven't you,
yeah.
that this is who you've got to back someone if they're gonna be your head coach. But it always does mean that there is the risk that if this isn't the head coach for us, that again, you're left with more investment that doesn't make sense for someone else to come in. Speaking about those younger players, so Diouf, we said he's been brilliant. I'm so happy to see that we've got a player that is just keen to get up the pitch and get balls into the box. Feels like every time he gets the ball out to the wing, he's just looking to cross it. And I saw an interview with Bowen where he said he's just going to constantly whip balls into the box, so just be in the box. And I think even knowing that is exciting because he has the ability to do that clearly. And while he wasn't the cheapest, he wasn't super expensive, but that feels like the kind of progressive player with the energy that we were lacking last season. So I'm
Yeah, and I
happy that we've brought in someone there that is already hitting the ground running as well, and he looks positive for us, doesn't he?
yeah, the impact that I can kind of compare him with is when Sufal joined
Yeah.
and we played Leicester away in his first game. And I can just remember thinking, they're two different players, but I can remember thinking, wow, we've got a fullback here
Yeah.
who's fit, it's slotted right in the system, exactly what we need, perfect. Um, but yeah, I actually saw him play against England for Senegal
Did
at the
you?
City Ground. And I can remember laughing because it obviously comes up in the program as El Hadj Diouf. And I was like, it's been a long time since he played. But then yeah, I saw it and I was thinking there was a few of the players that night that I thought looked really good, and he was one of them. And yeah, he's come in. hit the ground running, a bit like Aaron Wan-Bissaka the year before. He looks positive. I saw a few people, and we've got a piece in this month's looking at his stats and stuff. And actually, if you want to put any West Ham players into your fantasy Premier League team, I haven't at the moment, but I think he's definitely one because he's going to
I've
get a
got him
lot
in
of assists.
mind. Yeah, I believe in him. It's quite a risky move to put West Ham players in your fantasy team, isn't it? And
Yeah.
for anyone that is watching, West Ham Network League, I will pop the invite below. We've got prizes for the winner every single month. Little cheeky plug there. But yeah, I've got him in my fantasy team. So I just feel like he can do something, and he's cheap on fantasy. So it's win-win, really. But speaking about that youth, you touched on how obviously we'd said goodbye to a lot of experienced players that have been in the league for a while, players that have been at West Ham for a while, players that just have a good head on their shoulders and seem quite calm at times. We've brought in Callum Wilson. Now, we hated playing against Callum Wilson because we knew he had goals in him. We've brought him in and he scored a goal for us so far. He also kind of stole a shooting opportunity from Bowen, which I know turned everyone from going, hang on a second, can we have something here, to being like, how dare he? But I think he's one of those players that if we can keep him fit, we've got a proven Premier League striker in him. But it might divide opinion and it's going to go one way or the other. Do you think, as somebody that we're probably going to have to give limited game time at times because we don't want him to get injured, do you think that he's going to be a good addition to our squad if we use him in the correct way?
Yes. If he stays fit, then I think he's going to be a real asset. It was very interesting when he spoke after the Forest game. He made it very clear that he was there to be part of a squad, to play his part when called upon. So he's clearly come in thinking, well, I'm not going to be playing week in, week out, 90 minutes. I'm going to be, playing the cup games or coming off the bench to try and influence the game. And actually, when I was listening to the Forest game, and both the commentator and the co-commentator I was listening to was saying just how fit and how sharp that he actually looked against Forest, and he created a couple of chances before he took his goal. And then I know West Ham have posted the video of the movement from Wilson, but he turned that defender inside out before creating that half a yard he needed to finish it. The chance that he took off Bowen's toe, honestly, every time I watch it, I laugh so much because Bowen is absolutely livid. But
He's fuming.
Wilson is a goal scorer. He's a proven goal scorer. I know that Danny Ings, when we signed him, similar kind of thing. He always seemed to sort of do well or score against us, but I think Wilson probably will fare a bit better in this system than perhaps Ings did in the
Yeah,
system we had before. But Wilson has come to score goals. He wants to get to that 100 Premier League club. That's where he wants to be. So he obviously wants to come on Premier League games. He's probably thinking, if I come on in the last half an hour, 20 minutes of a game, I'm going to get at least one or two chances, you'd hope.
yeah,
And you do that math, and that's why he's on he's the incentive on his deal is to get onto the pitch and play and score. So, I mean, the only person who's probably disappointed that he scored against Forest is probably Sullivan. But other than that, we should be celebrating it. Was I a huge fan when he signed? I don't know. He said a lot about West Ham over the years, and there's been a lot, and I mean he's acknowledged it, which I think is
yeah.
great.
He needed to,
Um,
didn't he, I guess, to
yeah.
sort of put it to bed, the stuff that had been said over the years, try and get fans slightly back on side after what he's done over the years to us.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like you said, I think he's ruthless and he is a striker, and strikers typically are quite selfish. So that's probably why he's got it in him, that he wanted that ball and he saw an opportunity to shoot and he took it, which I guess is probably why he's done quite well in his career at bagging goals when he can, because he'll grab at any scrap of an opportunity to get a goal. It just so happened to be that Bowen had set it up and it would have been goal of the season if he'd managed to put it
Yeah.
away. But so the last point before we wrap up episode 1 together, can you summarize where you think we are after this window? Because I feel like the one game has changed a lot. It started so negative, and then our 3-0 win against Forest has just shown that we do have something there to be building upon. Potter moving to a back 4 shows that he is willing to change things if they're not working, and that this system seems to be working better for us. Somerville coming back felt like a big boost. And now we go into this international break feeling a little bit more positive, and it feels as though the season could at this moment in time go one way or the other. So how are you feeling going into the rest of the season?
Okay, there was a lot of points you just made there that I wanted to pick up, and I won't remember them all. I don't think we've had the best transfer window out of all of the Premier League clubs. Like, I think TalkSport had us down at, like, 18th or 19th out of 20th, and I
Mm,
think that was a bit harsh, but I'm also not saying that we're that much higher than that. Um, Before the season started, I thought we'd get 4 points from those opening 3 games,
yeah.
and we'd probably get through the next round of the Carabao Cup. So we're not in the League Cup anymore, and, we've got 3 points. So before the Forest game, I was thinking, "I don't know when we're gonna get another win here for the foreseeable."
Mm,
So we're only 1 point off where I thought we would be. I thought we'd
good.
get the win at Sunderland. I didn't fancy us against Chelsea, and I thought we'd get a draw at Forest. So are we not that far away? However, the performance against Sunderland was all right until they kind of scored and we folded.
Yeah.
Chelsea, my biggest concern with Chelsea was that we needed someone to go and get a booking. We needed someone to go and put a tackle on one of them. We needed to
Mm,
actually get the crowd off their seat, not from the chances we create, but just actually the physicality, which we didn't. And then Forest, I felt it was I thought it was a smash and grab. Somerville coming back, I think if he stays fit,
mm,
if we get enough games out of him this season, I think, yeah, absolutely, he'll be like a new signing. As I say, my thought process hasn't changed a great deal. I still think we are 8th, 9th, 10th in terms of when you compare us to the other clubs. I think the only issue we will have is that we're still in a kind of transition, whereas I think there's a lot of teams in the Premier League that are really established, have their identity, have that core group of players that I think will probably just see them above us for now. But in terms of size and everything else, I think we should definitely be. Nothing's changed drastically. I still
mm.
think we will be around that mid-table area. And to be honest, anything this season that kind of gets us 14th, which last year's 14th completely flattered us, but anything 14th and above, I think we should just go, okay, thank you very much. Get those extra plays in that Potter needs to be able to kick on next season.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. And I'm hoping that this is the beginning of a rebuild that we knew we needed because we were struggling so much. I'm hoping that our two midfielders can make that difference in terms of linking things up better. And we're going to be chatting a lot more about this in episode 2. But before we conclude episode 2, tell us, the listeners, the readers, the viewers, how they can keep up to date with everything at Blown Bubbles magazine.
Yeah, Blowing Bubbles is fantastic because we have that combination of we have like George Paris who does a monthly column. It's great to get kind of his insight into what he thinks is going on at West Ham, which I'd say a lot of times actually is slightly a different take to what us fans have, and I think it's just great having kind of ex-players' perspective. Then you've kind of got the fans' input, and we cover like there's always so much. I've always thought there won't be enough to fill a magazine every month on what goes on at West Ham. There's always something that goes on. But what we've really focused on a lot over the last year or so is just getting a bit of that nostalgia in. I feel like when things are tough, you want to be remembered and reminded of the times when it wasn't so bad, or also you want to be reminded of times when it was so bad that you think it's not so bad now, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
that's been a real focus for us, and as well the West Ham women. We cover each of that in it. So there's such a wide range of content. We come out every month. What I always try and do, if we get it out at the start of the month, we can kind of look back on the month we just had, look forward to the month that we've got going on, and hopefully, my always biggest ick with some fanzines is that when you pick it up, by the time you've read it, the content in it
Mm.
is already old. So my hope is always that the content is it got a long enough shelf life, whether you pick it up on the first day it comes out to print, or whether it's kind of the third week down, that you still take a lot of out of it as you can. But yeah, people can go online, and you can subscribe for 5 issues or 11 issues or 20 issues, which has become really popular recently. Perfect for not just for West Ham fans, but also others, those that can remember buying fanzines. I think that is definitely our target audience because they do love pouring through. And interestingly, we always sell more issues when we're going through a bad patch than when we're having a
Oh,
good patch. And I think it's because other people want to read other people's thoughts about why it's going wrong, and probably to validate their own concerns, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. A bit of emotional support in the bad
Yeah,
times.
exactly.
Love it. Well, there you go. So if you haven't already, make sure you keep an eye out for Blowing Bubbles magazine. Like David said, there are so many ways to keep up to date with everything that's happening at West Ham, and there's no icky content. It's all up to date and it all makes sense. If you haven't already as well, make sure you subscribe, leave a comment down below, and hit the thumbs up on this video. I'm going to be joined in video 2, part 2 of David, where we're going to be taking a bit more of a look into the future and what we have in store. But for now, that's all from us. Come on, you Irons. Thanks, David.